Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's playoff time. The Major League Baseball playoffs are officially here. But real quick before we get to the predictions, we're gonna go over the biggest surprises, disappointments, and as well as the best and worst teams in their respective if well, they're called leagues, they're really conferences. But let's go ahead and recap those. There's been a lot of ups and downs, so let's get into it. Starting with the American League, with our biggest surprise is the Texas Rangers. They went 68 and 94 last season and then missed out on the playoffs. This time around, they finished fifth in the American League and second in the West with a 90 and 72 record. They secured the second wildcard spot and will be playing against the higher seeded Rays. If I'm seeing it right. I'm sure. So that me, this is the biggest surprise. Orioles could have taken this spot, but that's if you take into account 2 seasons worth of stuff. Our biggest disappointment, it was hard to pick from, but I ended up deciding on the Yankees since they had previously gone 99 to 63, winning their division and making it all the way to the league championship series, only to finish fourth in their division. It was tough, and they ended up eighth in the American League, failing to make the playoffs with an 82 and 80 record. That is such a way to go out. Welcome to how it feels, Yankees. This is why I hold off on the Orioles because they're actually the best team in the American League. They finish on top of their division and have the number one seed. That's how the best works. They had previously gone 83 and 79, which not made it that big of a surprise. But they finished with 101 and 61 as their record. That's a lot of games to win for such a young team in such a short turnaround. But hey, that's what happens. And for yet another year in a row, the worst team in the American League is, of course, the Oakland Athletics. In fact, they lost more games than they did last year. They went 60 and 102 last time, and now they went about 50 and 100, 113, in whatever makes up 162 games, and that's what pretty much sucks about this team. They could have been worse this year too if the players weren't trying to secure contracts. And so, whose fault is it now? Especially since they're pending a move to Las Vegas. There weren't all that many notable surprises in the National League this year, but I ended up deciding to go with the Marlins. Is now they are a game short 162, and we're supposed to make it up. Whether or not that is made up, you can check after you can refer back after the video. But regardless, they finished 69 and 93, nice last year. But they managed to secure third in the division, fifth, making them a second wildcard team, as they gotta go face the Phillies, which honestly may not be a good idea for them. They may not. I could have picked like the Padres, but this one was just straight up disappointing. The Mets are at the actual biggest disappointment of all in this year. That's a I did not mean to put in 34th, but that's actually supposed to be the fourth. That's supposed to say fourth in the division. They finished 12th. They had previously won 101 wins last year. But this year was a big downgrade. LOL Mets came back in a big form. And yeah, It's so bad that they'd rather forget about it. We have, in one of the least surprising things, one of the best teams in the National League being the Atlanta Braves. In fact, they managed to win 3 more games than they did last year. They got the number 1 seed this time, which makes them the best team in the National League. They did lose in the divisional series last time, and they're hoping to get it to the World Series again. However, there's going to be either the Marlins or the Phillies standing in their way. Well, whoop-de-doo, look who made it towards the bottom again. It's the Colorado Rockies. The that's supposed to be NFL, not National League. It's supposed to be the National League worst team. This was put together in a rather hasty way because playoffs start rather quickly. But they went from winning 68 games to only winning 59. Woof. And now we come to the part where we get to predict the actual series. And the Blue Jays take the 6th seed and they're up against the Twins who are winners of the Central Division of the American League. The Blue Jays managed to barely squeak by too. Ooh, and to be honest, this here is a rather interesting situation. This could be a blessing in disguise for the Blue Jays. And all the Twins are hoping for is to win at least 1 game. They do get home field advantage for this particular round, but winner has to face one of the top two. And to be frank, I see only 1 game coming from the Twins as they failed to beat the Blue Jays in 3 games. Whereas for the 5 seeded Rangers, they're up against the 4 seeded Rays. And I think this is gonna be a back and forth series where the Rays take it in 3. Diamondbacks being a surprise in the National League, 6th seed going up against the Central winner Brewers. This I'm thinking this could be like a learning experience here, which is why I have the Brewers sweeping the series. Whereas Marlins and Phillies, I think it's gonna be a back and forth. Phillies win in 3, and it'll be a rematch of the divisional series. Speaking of, the 4 seeded Rays are set to take on the are going to be taking on the 1 seeded Orioles. Orioles beat the Rays throughout the season, and this is going to be a 5 game series where I think they go back and forth with the Rays ultimately coming out on top. Whereas for Blue Jays and Astros, not gonna lie, the Astros struggled. So I think the Blue Jays will at least sneak in 1 game win. But ultimately, the series ends with Astros winning in 4. Going over to the National League, we have Phillies versus Braves rematch. As the Braves would end up taking the first game at home, but they're gonna end up losing in 4 to the Phillies because that's how things tend to go for us Braves fans. As for the Dodgers, I think they're gonna end up sweeping the Brewers in the divisional series. Then we get the best of 7. Last time and they had to face the Padres. This time it's the Dodgers. And sorry, Phillies, you're just out of gas at this point. Dodgers sweep. This series over here would be a back and forth, but I think Tampa Bay ultimately takes it at home in 7. And then for the World Series, the Rays are going to squeak in a couple, but the Dodgers are just going to take this one in 6. So that's what we have here. Rays versus Dodgers. Dodgers win in 6. Because who cares? But thank you all so much for tuning in to this. I hope you enjoy what you see. And be sure to, well, you're not obligated to, but who cares? I should stop plugging myself. Until next time, travel safely.